Hey guys, another reviewer here. I kind of realize it's been a long time since I've done one of these, around 3 years to be more, succinct about it. And I figured that if I was going to come crawling back, I should probably do so by finishing a series that I started a long time ago that became one of my most popular. And by that I mean the Eschalon series of reviews. So I'm coming back to review Eschalon Book 3. Unfortunately, whenever I went to do that game, I kind of realized it had been so long since I'd done Eschalon Book 2, or, even Book 1, that I really didn't remember what happened in those games. And the reviews weren't any help that I did because the game was supposed to be shrouded in mystery, so I didn't go into the plots to save it for the person that would play it, if they would play it after my review. And, well, I kind of played through those games, and I played through the third, and I realized you kind of need to know more about the plot of the first two games to understand what I have to say about the third one. So, I'm going to go ahead now, and I'm going to lay down the plot of Eschalon Book 1 in this video, and then I'm going to do Book 2 in another video, because I wrote out the script. I was going to do both in one, but there's just too much to talk about. So there's going to be this plot video, then the Eschalon Book 2 plot video, and then the Eschalon Book 3 review. So just bear with me. I'll try to be as precise as possible with the details and try not to waffle too much on details that don't really matter. But if you don't want to be spoiled for what happens in Book 1, skip this video on to the next one, which will be the plot recap of Book 2, if you already know the plot of that. Or you can skip that and move right on to the review of Book 3 and just know how the whole thing ties together. But anyway, let's start with the plot of Eschalon Book 1.
Eschalon Book 1 takes place in Thermore, a region in the west of Eschalon.
I guess Eschalon is the name of the planet? I don't really understand what it is with RPGs and having worlds that you can circumvent, like, roughly a week. I mean, you'd think that would be too small for the core to maintain... fuck it.
The first thing you see as the game actually starts is a face that flashes in stormy weather. It's the face of Neo, the one. Or not, well, never mind, we'll get into it later.
It makes me wonder why they never made any sequels to The Matrix. They'd probably be amazing.
You awaken in a house that has been ransacked with no memory of who you are outside of your name. I named my character Crunchwrap.
Like how I play most RPGs, I intend to level this character until he's a supreme being. And if you get that joke, then I owe you Taco Bell.
After searching the house, you find a sealed note, the contents of which explain that you don't remember jack shit. But hopefully, you managed to remember something.
Thankfully, the secret spot referred to in the note is obvious. Because, the asshole who wrote this note knew that you wouldn't know where it is because you kind of don't have any memories. And I guess it's just something that they couldn't put in the chest with the note. I don't even know who this E guy is, and I already hate him.
The note continues to explain that you need to find an old man named Maddock in a nearby village called Aridel. As you leave the ransacked house, you notice that the whole town has shared the same fate as the house you had woke in, and has been mostly destroyed and infested with monsters. Once you reach Aridel and speak to the people, you find out that the town you came from is called Elder Hollow, and it was attacked by goblins years back. You also find out that the region is in a war against a people called Oricor that dwell deep underground. There's no law in the streets of Thermore, as all the Commonwealth guards were sent by the Chancellor to fight these Oricor, after they sent an agent into the Bastion Spire to steal the Crux of Ages, a power gemstone that was kept there.
Where were these guards when the Crux of Ages was stolen? I mean, is it really that easy to just waltz into what should be the most highly protected building in the whole place and steal their most prized artifact? Well, we'll get into that later, and yes.
Anyway, you find Maddock, who gives you a note and some gold that was left for you. He gives you no information who left it, as he was wearing a mask and asked no questions himself, being a former courier and following the courier's code.
The second sealed note from E details that their identity can't be disclosed, though you will find out eventually. They explain that you're part of some big event that affects the entire region, and that your memory was wiped by some special serum. So that the name that you're going by now isn't even your actual name, just one that was imprinted into your memories.
At this point, the note gives you the choice to either continue your days under your assumed name with no memory of what you had done to involve you in this great event, or you can find a way into the locked crypt called Eversleep Cemetery to find an amulet that belongs to you in a coffin. The note details that in order to get inside the cemetery, you should speak to Lyric, the cemetery director.
The note also tells you that once you find it, you have to take it to a woman that lives in the woods by the name of Lilith, and she'll tell you what it's for and how to continue your journey to find out who you are. Also, you suck complete ass because the special serum also happened to wipe out all of your skills and strengths. That's pretty convenient if you ask me.
Anyway, once you find Lyric, he initially doesn't want you poking around, but you convince him to give you a key if you clear out the giant salamanders that broke into his basement. Upon doing so and traveling to the crypt, you find it filled with traps and monsters.
Oh, good.
Once you find your amulet and take it to Lilith, she quickly explains that she could tell you what it is and what it means to you, but instead she sends you to kill the Hive Queen so that the Hive drones vacate the forest. She'd do it herself, but she's extremely allergic to their sting.
All this to figure out something you willingly forgot in the first place.
Once you return, she explains that the amulet is a key for a box stored in a place called the Underground Repository. She continues to tell you that it is a special vault designed for people who need a place to store valuables with no questions asked. It offers uncompromised security and anonymity to its members, and using it means you're a member of a secret society. They have no tolerance for trespassing or snooping around, so you have to present your amulet to get in. She can't tell you exactly where it is, but if you snoop around a town called Blackwater, you'll find it. Just don't ask any questions directly about it, or you'll be killed.
No, yeah, great. I'm just going to go ahead and snoop around a place that has no tolerance for snooping around. Here's an idea. How about I go to someone in particular, show it to them, and they're like, oh yeah, you're one of those guys. I mean, they know enough to kill anybody that asks around about it, but nobody can throw me a fucking bone here? Come on!
Once you reach the gates of Blackwater, the guards inform you that in order to enter the town, you have to pay a one-time tax of 100 gold. After checking out the town, visiting the merchants, and probably picking up a few side quests, you run into a tiny house with the door wide open, trash and debris everywhere, and a corpse near the far wall. Upon inspecting the corpse, you find a blood-stained note that contains the information you need to get into the repository. You just have to get a room at the Lonely Spirits Tavern under the name Foosgrumph, and walk through a false wall. Once inside, you present your amulet and make your way to your vault. Once there, you open a chest to discover a third note, along with the Crux of Ages.
Wait, I had access to the magic MacGuffin? Did I steal it? Am I one of the goblin agents or something? Jesus Christ, I'm trying to explain this plot and I don't even know what the hell's going on.
I suppose we should let the letter explain. It details that your new identity is established, but you have to continue to work to eliminate the danger surrounding your previous identity. It explains to you that you are, in fact, now in possession of the legendary Crux of Ages, but you have to keep it secret.
As it turns out, we found it while scavenging a goblin battleground. To be honest, I thought this would help us find our previous life, not establish the new one.
Anyway, the note continues by explaining that if it gives you more detail, it would trigger memories that would put you in more danger. A goblin shaman named Gramick is trying to find you via your past memories through a technique called temporal linking, linking your discovery of the Crux of Ages with your past memories to track down who and where you are.
It goes on to explain that despite having the Crux of Ages in your possession, you're still safe because you don't have enough recent memories of having the Crux or being associated with the Crux that Gramick would be able to hunt you down.
The note finally reveals the author as you. You knew all this would lead to certain death, so you wiped out your own memory and set up this new identity for yourself. This is also where you find out you have a brother who was with you when you found the Crux.
He was going to carry out the same plan that you had executed, of wiping his memories and then creating a great epic quest to create a new identity, but instead he got captured by the goblins, who now put him through great torture so that he'll reveal your location and subsequently the location of the Crux of Ages.
Before you wiped your memory, you heard that he was being held in an abandoned city turned goblin outpost called Vela. The note closes by explaining that the Chancellor is being influenced by Gramick, being that he sent away all of his guards to war against the Oricor that he believes stole the Crux when it was clearly stolen by the goblins.
The game once again gives you the opportunity to give up your quest and live out the rest of your days as Crunchwrap. Unfortunately, it also guilts you by saying that, if you do, the only family you have, which is your brother, will die and the goblins will take over Thermore.
Upon reaching Vela and fighting through fungal slimes, goblins, and various traps, you find your brother being held in a horrific torture device with mere hours to live.
He mentions the pointlessness of you leaving those notes for yourself that led you here, and it's pretty obvious that you're not going to be able to rescue him, but he still decides to share with you what his captors were discussing.
He explains that goblins plan to destroy Shadowmirk, the mage citadel to the north, and that you must go there and find a wizard named Erebor, and warn him if Shadowmirk falls, so shall the remainder... Oh, for fuck's sake, you can read the screen. You ask him what to do with the Crux of Ages, but he doesn't answer, and he tells you not to speak of it, as Gramick may be able to hear. That whole scrying thing, I guess. Anyway, he then begs you to end his life, which you have the choice to do or not do.
It doesn't really matter if you kill him or not, as it has no effect on the rest of the game.
There's no clear entrance to get into Shadowmirk through the front, but if you snoop around, you manage to find a door that's not only unlocked, but slightly ajar.
If Shadowmirk falls, Theramore falls. We're fucked, aren't we?
Upon entering, you find it dark and seemingly abandoned, aside from the dimensional eye that you have to kill in order to progress. You also have to make your way through several puzzles, but they aren't plot relevant, and this recap is getting long-winded anyway. After wandering around for a little while, you find Walter, who explains to you that the tower is basically a trial for initiates, and if they can make their way to the top, they have proven that they are ready to be taught the ways of magic by the headmaster, who happens to be Erebor that we've come to find. Once you've made it to the third floor, you find Erebor, who not only knows who you are, but was also expecting your arrival.
Well, if you already got that stitched up, then how the fuck do you not know why I'm here? I've left a mile-wide path of shit in my wake everywhere I seem to go, so seeing my ugly fucking mug can't be a good thing now, can it?
Apparently, he already knew that goblins were coming to attack Shadowmirk, and also confirms our suspicions that the guards of the region were all in a wild goose chase. He tells you that Shadowmirk is the last defense Theramore has. The reason the Chancellor is currently cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs is because the Crux of Ages was granting him wisdom, but apparently without it, he's a simpering idiot.
I would ask the question as to why they made this guy Chancellor, but I've had the Crux for a few hours and I don't feel any different. You must have to be a slobbering moron to start with to become any wiser from it.
He informs you that moving forward, we have to recover the Crux of Ages, which you already have, and return it to Bastion Spire. But with all the entrances sealed except one, your only way in is to go to the Goblin Citadel and use a portal that Gramick keeps opened for when the guards are weak enough that he can just go in and clean house. He also reminds you that because you're involved with the Crux, you're a hunted man.
Yeah, no shit. It seems kind of counterproductive to go all witness protection program on myself, only to go start doing the same old shit. I mean, Jesus, I guess it bought me a few weeks just so I could hone the skills I already had!
Erebor informs you that in order to get into the Goblin Citadel, you'll need 4 keys, one of which he has in a chest in his bedroom. He tells you that another one is with the giants in the Timberland Plains, and that he's a trusted friend with their leader, Omar. You don't get much more information than that, other than they will be in places where there are a bunch of goblins, which means there will be a warlord there to lead them.
You had to fight one of the goblin warlords on your way to finding your brother in Vela. There's another in the Commonwealth Guard fortification of Grimhold.
If you explore South Parish, the region you started in, you will find a fast travel obelisk to the north for a place called Grimhold East. The west entrance is in central Tangletree Forest, where you went to fight the Hive Queen, but we're concerned with the east entrance. Upon entering, the first thing you find is a dying soldier who first mistakes you for a member of the Commonwealth Guard. He tells you the place is crawling with goblins, that they were unable to take back Grimhold, and that the gates are closed and it's currently not passable. He continues to inform you that in order to open the gate, you have to activate a secondary water gate beneath Grimhold, because the goblins that infest the entirety of the fort destroyed the lever that retracts the gates. He informs you that you can take the northern route to get to the other side.
This makes me wonder why the goblins need to keep Grimhold and stop anyone from going through the gates.
Anyway, you have to do it to get a key, so you fight through the goblins and find your way around Grimhold until you discover a goblin warlord's chamber. You kill him and you get the blue goblin key.
Now it's time to find the last goblin key, and this is where it gets a little tricky because there's a locked gate between you and the final areas of the game. Now, there are 2 different ways that you can get there, and I'll go over both because they both have to do with the same chain of events, basically. Though unfortunately, they start very early in the game, so you're either going to have to backtrack, unless you're a good RPG player, like you should be, and talk to everyone and get every bit of information and every quest that you can possibly get as soon as you meet them.
It starts back in Eredel, the town in, you guessed it, the starting region of the game. You find a man named Father Michael in a church. When you ask him if he has any work for you, he tells you that there's a destitute man living in the West Salted Coast that has contracted a disease called flesh rot. The Bethel has a rare potion of absolute restoration that can cure him, but it's too dangerous for Father Michael to do it himself, so you agree to do it. While exploring the region the man is supposedly at, you find a house protected by powder kegs that you discover are all duds. When you enter, you find a man who introduces himself as Paul, and warns you that he's very ill, so you shouldn't stay long. You give him the potion Father Michael gave you while informing him who sent you, and he examines the potion before hurling it out a window and saying that it looks and smells like boiled down Noxamander venom.
He explains to you that Father Michael is the reason that he contracted flesh rot and is sending you to finish the job. You see, Paul had found a note that was sent between Gramuck to Father Michael to explain to him how to make a portal so that the goblins could invade Darkford. Of course, Father Michael sent somebody to pick up the note, wondering if Paul had read it or not, and sent a salted ham along with the deal as a gift for his great deed of returning the letter. Unfortunately, the salted ham was tainted.
Paul had actually copied the letter by hand, altering the portal instructions so they would never actually work, and kept the original, which he gives you. He instructs you to take the original letter north to Darkford to show the captain, but show no one in Eredel, as they won't believe you. He also lets you know that the portal Father Michael was working on is in a cottage near Darkford.
This is where you have two methods to enter Crackamere. You can either go to Darkford and steal the key to the gate that separates Crackamere from the rest of Thamor, or you can finish Father Michael's portal, which takes you directly to Rotwood, as well as gives you a direct route to Blackwater, which is pretty convenient, being that there's no fast traveling in Crackamere. But first we'll go over the Darkford route, as it's the way that the second game tells you you've actually done it.
Once you get to Darkford, the guards won't let you pass unless you have the quest from Paul. You have to threaten them, but they eventually let you in. The gate key is in a chest just outside the captain's office, and as far as I know, that's the only way you can get it. You can speak to the captain to find out his name is Captain Morgan, and that he's a slovenly, disorganized drunk. You give him the letter to finish the quest and get a little gold, but ultimately it accomplishes nothing, other than getting you in here to take the key for the gate in northeastern Crackamere. The other method involves breaking into Father Michael's cottage and finishing the portal ritual by putting mercury and ectoplasm in the alembic with ambergris and bromine that are already there.
This just involves not selling those particular items if you loot them, or searching alchemy shops for them. Also, it's more convenient because it takes you directly to Rotwood, which will continue a quest that you should have by now anyway to get the final goblin key.
In Rotwood, you find a town populated by giants. The only one that will speak to you is the chieftain, Omar. You explain to him that you were sent by Erebor and that you wish to get the goblin key and use it to stop Gramuck at the Goblin Citadel. If you're nice to him, he gives you a quest to retrieve the skull of Thoris, the former chieftain of the giants, from the camp of a hunter named Thorndyke.
He also offers to send his giants to the Goblin Citadel to fight by your side. Unfortunately, all this really means is, while they take out a good chunk of the goblins, they basically get taken down by goblin archers and Tarax.
Thorndyke's camp is in a region called Baron's Thicket, and it's heavily populated by raptors. They're pretty tough, but at this point of the game, they don't put up too much resistance. You get through them, you find the skull, as well as a ton of other loot, and take it to Omar. He'll let you get the final goblin key and some gold out of his chest. Now, you have to go to the Goblin Citadel and fight your way in, but once you're inside, gates lower that block you from the obelisk you have to put the goblin keys in to gain access to the second level. So now you have to fight your way through the entirety of the first floor to find a way around.
Once you get to the obelisk and up the stairs, you're pretty much half a dozen spiders and 2 Tarax away from getting to the end of the game. So, prepare for an info dump of, the story that the game hasn't told you yet.
On the second level of the Goblin Citadel, you face Gramuck, a very old and wizened practitioner of magic. He reveals that he's been watching you this whole time, which he shouldn't have been able to, so that doesn't really make sense. But anyway, he then tells you that you were a pawn in Erebor's game, and he would sacrifice you to save Shadowmurk and Theramore, which I'm not sure why I'd point that out, as the whole point is protecting Shadowmurk, and by extension Theramore. But he continues to say that he has allowed you to get this far to make you an offer. Hand over the crux and leave Theramore, never to return, lest the goblins will attack you, in exchange for safe exit from the Citadel with more gold than what will last you the rest of your life.
He's basically trying to play on the fact that you neuralized yourself for what at this point amounts to no real reason.
So obviously you tell him to pound sand and fight him, right? It can't be that hard. I mean, not only is he a goblin, but he's an old goblin, so it's gotta be, what the shit?! He turns into a Dyrachnid, whatever that is, and you just kill it, because it's not that hard. And you take the silver key it drops. The silver key opens a door in the back of the chamber where you found Gramick, and has a room with a portal that leads straight to the Bastion Spire. I told you it was easy. You find it devoid of all life other than the Chancellor, whom you can speak to before placing the Crux of Ages on its pedestal to see exactly what kind of fuckwit it takes to actually get benefit out of the thing. Then you just put it in its place. This disables the Goblin Portal and snaps the Chancellor out of whatever it was that was messing around with his egg salad. When you speak to him, he realizes you were the one that returned the Crux, and that there's a lot of information you have that the Council will need to sort out everything that has happened.
At the end of it all, you're held for 3 days to explain your version of the events, only in the end for it all to be kept secret, but you're rewarded modestly to keep it that way.
The people are fed a bullshit story that the Commonwealth Guard defeated the Auricor and they recovered the Crux of Ages. You're left to live out your life, but you still seem to have an uneasy feeling at night, hearing voices in the darkness and seeing movements in the shadows.
So there you have it. The Urukur that, as far as you know so far, don't even exist, had nothing to do with this. It was just the goblins, and you get to have your useless new identity that's probably more fucked up than the last one was because of all the shit you've seen by now, and move on with your life. So, with that, I'm also going to move on with my life. I will see you guys next time for the plot recap of Eschalon Book 2. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.